Hey, good afternoon, everyone. We're coming back into session from the morning portion of our meeting for the purpose of land use items. So it's, I guess, 1 o'clock. Emily, could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Thayer.
Here.
Commissioner Richardson.
Here.
Commissioner Schroeder.
Here.
All righty. Before we open the hearings, I've got a close family member with a potential direct financial interest in the outcome of this hearing, so I'm going to recuse myself and turn the meeting over to Commissioner Schroeder. He gets the hammer. Please behave. Thank you.
So as Commissioner Richardson leave, just to give you an overview of what we have today, we have two items before us in land use, both having to do with Phantom Creek. The first one will be on the rezone. Second one is on a preliminary plat. We will be hearing those as two separate items. And just so everybody's aware within the room, with just two of us sitting here, it does take both of us in agreement for something to go through. So just so that everybody is aware of that. Basically what we'll do, we'll open the hearing. Staff will make a presentation on the item. The applicant will make their presentation on the item. After that, there will be public comment. Try to keep your comments to 3 minutes, please. After that, and throughout the process, the commission has the opportunity to ask questions of either the applicant or staff for clarification. We also have asked representatives from our Public Works Department to be present during that question and discussion time for more information for us if we find it necessary. And at that point, there'll be a motion. The motion could be to approve, could be approved with conditions, could be to deny, or it could be to continue. And those are the options that are before us. And then at that point, we would close the one item on the rezone and then restart again in a new public hearing. Hope that was clear for everybody. If not, we'll walk through it gently together. So with that, I would entertain a motion to open public hearing on Phantom Creek rezone.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we open the Phantom Creek rezone P-2023-00039.
I will second that. And all those in favor?
Hey.
Aye.
All right, thank
Public
you,
hearing.
Commissioners. And would you like me to do both presentations or do one and then wait and then do the second?
Let's hear them separately. So
Okay.
We have some different items to come up on those.
Okay, sounds good. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Danny Klebanner. I'm a land use planner here for the Community and Economic Development Department of Elbert County. Today we'll be hearing the Phantom Creek rezone first, and that is case number P-2023-00039. So brief background on this. This presentation is about a rezoning from agriculture to agriculture residential, and will be followed by a presentation for a preliminary plat. The request again is rezoning P-2023-00039, rezone from ag to ag residential, and the location is 39010 County Road 21 in Elizabeth, Colorado 80107. The applicant and owner of this is Mike Brownson and Phantom Creek Development, LLC. So the process for this began back in February of 2022 with a pre-application meeting. There was a community meeting held October 5th of 2022. The formal application was submitted May 5th of 2023. We had a planning commission date just last month on the 20th, and here we are today, March 13th, 2024. All noticing complied with Elbert County zoning regulation and Elbert County subdivision regulation 14-day advance notice with posting in Ranchland News, an on-site sign posting, and quarter-mile radius mailing. So as you can see, the location of this is about 5 miles north of Elizabeth. Again, the situs address is 39010 County Road 21, Elizabeth, Colorado 80107. And this subject property is east of County Road 21 and more generally south of County Road 166 and north of County Road 154. Here's a zoning map of the property in question, the subject property, marked there with the star. It is outlined in brown there. As you can see, the surrounding zoning is ag to the north and east and west, and then there to the south you have the Hidden Pine subdivision. So again, to the north you have ag zoning with the Foxtail Farm subdivision with 35-acre primarily residential lots. To the south you have residential agriculture 1 Hidden Pine subdivision with 4-acre lots. To the east we have more agriculture with a 45 and 35-acre lot zoned agriculture, and to the west we have 3 lots zoned ag with approximately 40-acre lots there. Here's another aerial map of the property. You can see there on the west side that is County Road 21, and to the north abutting the property is Pronghorn Avenue. So this case went through a standard referral process where all of these agencies were responded for referral. Elizabeth Fire District approved. Colorado Division of Water Resources will require re-permitting of 2 wells, but there is more than enough water based on Elbert County's rules. Kiowa Conservation District had no objections. Core Electric Cooperative approved this, as did CenturyLink. The assessor's comments were addressed. Elbert County Public Works has been consulted, and the Elbert County engineer reviewed this several times. That's a contract engineer, Kimley Horn. Colorado Parks and Wildlife gave input and on fencing and other aspects in terms of wildlife in the area. The State Geological Survey responded and approved, and this is not in CDOT's area, but they were contacted. So in Elbert County, we have these criteria A through F, which the Board of County Commissioners are asked to consider in their review of an application. The first is whether the proposed rezoning conforms and is generally consistent with the goals and policies of Elbert County's comprehensive plan. So this proposal does confirm and is generally consistent with the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. The residential development policy RD2 to preserve open space and to preserve the rural character of Elbert County through development along existing utility corridors and within 1 mile of paved roads is followed. The community resources topic area, WS4, states that new development shall conform to state laws covering domestic water and septic system. This proposal will comply with that policy. In addition, the natural resources topic policy EN2 states that new development should minimize negative impacts to adjacent agricultural lands and designated open space. There's just very few working agricultural lands nearby, but this should not negatively impact those properties. The rezoning will also conform with WL1, which is to refer this case or all cases to the Colorado Parks and Wildlife, which was done here. B, whether the proposed rezoning is compatible with surrounding land uses. The intent of the agriculture residential zone district is to permit a mix of agricultural uses and or private residences. The subject property is in a more developing area in Elbert County. There are 4-acre lots directly to the south of this property in the Hidden Pines Estate subdivision, which is zoned RA1. The currently undeveloped Miller Ranch with PUD zoning is located to the southeast, and agricultural zoning to the north in the Foxtail Farm subdivision is to the north. The area is a mix of larger residential properties along with smaller lot residential, PUD zoning, and a few working agricultural properties. This rezoning to agriculture residential should not negatively impact the surrounding land. That was weird. C, whether the proposed rezoning would adversely impact the provision of public services. This development will provide a private road to serve 8 of the 10 lots in this development. The other 2 lots will be served by private driveways connecting to County Road 21. This development will also provide open space with trail access. There will be no adverse effects to public services in the area. The road and driveway entrances will be constructed to Elbert County Public Works standards with the paving of aprons requested by Public Works. D, whether the proposed rezoning would adversely impact the environment. This rezoning will not adversely impact the environment. Building permit review and septic review for on-site water treatment with public health can identify any site-specific environmental factors upon development. The Division of Water Resources reviewed the proposed well water supply and deemed it adequate. Colorado Parks and Wildlife noted the benefit of the open space that Parcel B, remaining at 35 acres in the southeast corner, would provide. The development will also work with the local topography with no building areas with 20% or greater slope, and with the main drainage and treed area on the property being designated as open space. Colorado Parks and Wildlife also offered guidance on wildlife-friendly fencing. E, whether the proposed rezoning would create unreasonable traffic congestion or burden the existing road system without improvements. The addition of these proposed lots is not believed to create any unreasonable traffic burdens to the existing road system. Phantom Creek Circle will serve 8 of the lots and connects to the gravel road Pronghorn Avenue. The developer has also offered to maintain the existing Pronghorn Avenue up to the entrance of Phantom Creek Circle. At the eastern end of Phantom Creek Circle, Public Works suggested and the developer agreed that installation of an emergency use gate with a Knox box to limit traffic from the residents on Pronghorn Avenue to the initial 710 feet that connects with County Road 21. A road maintenance agreement as part of the subdivision improvement agreement will be necessary before any approval of a final plat. F, whether the proposed rezoning will not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the inhabitants of Elbert County. This proposed rezoning to agriculture residential will not be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the present or future inhabitants of Elbert County. This development conforms well with the agricultural and residential mix in the area. It is designed with open space to preserve the most densely treed portion of the property. The addition of open space with trails could benefit residents of the neighborhood. The rezoning was also reviewed and approved by the Elizabeth Fire Protection District. So findings for the rezoning: Elbert County Planning Department staff recommend the Board of County Commissioners to approve the Phantom Creek rezoning P-2023-0039. Staff finds the following: the proposal is in general conformance with the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. The proposal meets the criteria for approval in the Elbert County zoning regulations. The proposal is compatible with existing and allowable land uses in the surrounding area. And this proposal will not result in any significant impact to the health, safety, and welfare of the residents and landowners in the surrounding area. So with that, there's pretty standard conditions with this one. The applicant will be required to remove the sign within 7 days. The rezoning shall not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the exhibits are recorded, and recordation of all appropriate documentation is to occur within 180 days of the Board of County Commissioners' approval. So with that, I'll conclude this presentation, and again, we'll have a preliminary plat presentation also.
Thank you, Danny. Commissioner Thayer, do you have any questions for staff at this time? Okay, as will I. Okay, I'd like to invite the applicant up to make their presentation. Step to the podium, identify yourself, and let us know what you got going on.
My name is Mike Brownson, 39622 County Road 21, Elizabeth. And thanks for the opportunity to present this. And I wanted to thank CDS and planning again for, Danny's been great to work with, and I have to really congratulate Mr. Dietermeyer's staff. They've been very helpful. I'm not a developer. I started working on this probably about 4 years ago. And, so I had a little bit of learning to do and a little bit of reading, but here I am. I've lived in the county for 36 years now. Actually moved out to Sun Country Meadows. I think we're house number 45. So, we raised our kids here, and then in 1996, my father and I, who is also part of this project, he's a partner in Phantom Creek Development, LLC. He has the house that's currently on what's listed as lot number 2, and he's renting that out to his daughter-in-law and family, or stepdaughter, sorry. Anyhow, so, after a bit, then we built our house, and we've been living on that property since 1997. We raised horses on there. We had a breeding operation, and, I figured at some point they were probably going to bury us in a pine box on the property, and we're just going to keep it as is. But times change, and things change. So for numerous reasons, we just felt it was a good time to do something other than just let the land sit and graze, lease it to cattle. But, so I'm very much a part of the county. I love Elbert County. I'm not planning on going anywheres. I think on another, we didn't really label parcel A or parcel B, whatever, but the neighboring property that's carved out of that quarter section, that's my place. Plan on staying there. So I'm going to be one of the neighbors as well. And, as such, I'm kind of picky. I want, I could have done this, for example, I could have made more lots and not had the open space done cash in lieu. But that drainage is just so beautiful, and it attracts the wildlife. And I just thought it would be a really nice addition. So, this is not a money grab for me. It's like, well, what do I do with this property, and how do I help my family, support themselves, going forward? So, and it just seemed like the right thing to do. But I wanted to make sure it was done well. And so I started working on this, kind of trying to imagine about 4 years ago what this might look like, and sketch some things out on Google Earth. And that's actually pretty close to what we're seeing today when we see the preliminary plat. With some, with some tweaking from, the helpful staff, that, folks like the engineer, the surveyors, and of course the staff of community development. Now, I retired from full-time employment about 2 years ago, and it was like, I thought planning into that, it was a pretty good time. I could commit the time to just keep going through with this and put a little more investment into it. So that's when the hard work really started, and got the engineering studies done and started moving forward on it. That the natural space there, as we'll see on some of the overhead views, is it's just a great spot, and I'd love to be able to share that, with the neighbors and the people of Elbert County. So we've obviously worked with community development and how to make that work best. So that's one of my interests. The other, of course, we know there's a lot of concern about water. That was one of the reasons for going the 10-acre. And, we've got the water study from, at least from what Colorado Division of Water Resources has, and we're in a really good spot in the county for water. So meeting the 300 rule was not a problem. as well as, negating any impact on the neighbors. Because, there, again, it's all agricultural, pretty much just household and surrounding yard usage. So other than that, between, my wife and I have been working on this and then my father, and I think what we are proposing is a pretty good setup. I'm very pleased with it. I'm hoping that you will find the same. And I think when we get to the preliminary plat, obviously I don't need to repeat this, I'm assuming. Danny will do his thing, and then I'll probably not add a whole lot of comments other than we'll go from there. So, thank you.
Fair enough, thank you.
Any questions for me yet?
Don't have any questions.
Not at this time, so
All right.
stay tuned. Public comment on this? No public comment on the rezone. Any further questions from you, Commissioner Thayer, on the rezone?
Commissioner, can you turn on your microphone, please?
Apologize.
Vice Chair Schroeder, you might want to close public comment too as well.
Thank you. With that, no public comment. We will close public comment.
Now that I got the speaker on, I'll try and say whatever I said before again, is that studying the mapping and that type of thing, with respect to the zoning, it's compatible with the surrounding properties. There's going to be a significant amount of questions that come up when we go to the preliminary plat. To me, they're not related because one just begets the opportunity to do the next one. With that in mind, I move that we approve the Phantom Creek rezone P-2023-00039. Oh, as long as you accept the conditions of approval.
I will second that motion. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The rezone has been approved. With that being said, I will entertain a motion to close public comment on the Phantom Creek rezone.
So moved.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, with that being completed, we'll move on to item 2, the Phantom Creek preliminary plat. I would entertain a motion to open public comment on that item.
Mr. Chairman, I move we open the hearing on the Phantom Creek preliminary plat P-2023-00040.
I will second that. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You're now in public hearing on the Phantom Creek preliminary plat. Danny, I'll again turn it over to you for the staff presentation.
All right, thank you, commissioners. The second case today is the Phantom Creek preliminary plat, preliminary plat, and that is case P-2023-00040. And the details for this is, again, a preliminary plat, and the preliminary plat will be to subdivide 126 acres into 10 lots with approximately 28 acres of open space along a dry creek bed. Again, a lot of the details are going to be very similar here. The location is 39,010 County Road 21, Elizabeth, Colorado 80107. Applicant and owner, again, is Mike Brownson, Phantom Creek Development, LLC. So the process for this began at about the same time, pre-application in February of 2022, the community meeting, October 5th. The application was formally submitted May 5th of last year. And the referral process, there were a few, with one being in June of 2023. The hearing for this was held for a planning commission on the same date, February 20th, 2024. And here we are, March 13th, 2024, for Board of County Commissioners. Again, all noticing complied with Elbert County zoning and subdivision regulations with a posting in Ranchland News, quarter-mile radius mailings, and an on-site sign posting that was posted February 5th. So the location, again, same location. I won't dwell on this too much. And the subject property with the zoning map. Here we see another view with the wetland layer highlighted, and that's those blue lines. Those are riverine, occasional flooding during, or not flooding, occasional water running during large storms, and that's a classification. So here is another aerial map. As you can see, on that north side is Pronghorn Avenue, and kind of down in towards the bottom, the south there, you see the historic drainage there with the treed area. Here's a better look at the northeastern corner with Pronghorn right there. It's the northwest corner, but the northeastern portion of is that road there. And as you can see, that measurement, it might be a little bit hard to see, but it's about 710 feet from the entrance of Pronghorn to County Road 21. Here's a map that shows where one of the driveways will be. Right now, it's a tree-lined private driveway that will need an upgrade for the entrance with a paved apron, and then the possibility for one more entrance there to the south. And that is where the existing residence and outbuilding, those structures will remain. So here we get into some keynotes for the preliminary plat. It was obviously contingent on the rezone from agriculture to agriculture residential. We have 10-acre lots with 4 lots with a less than 10% variation from 10 acres, and I'll get into the details on the next slide for that. Access for 8 of those lots would be off of Pronghorn Drive, then through Phantom Creek Circle. 9 out of the 10 lots have no existing structures, and we have 28 acres of open space that bisects this development. So here are some more key notes on the first submission versus the version that we went with. So we're requesting a minor variation to allow for about less than 10% in a numerical variation, and that's per Article 1H in Elbert County subdivision regulations. And in the 2 lot, you can see the comparison. This was done to allow for more uniform lot shapes and a consistent delineation of the open space for the development. This must be approved by the CDS director, and while the BOCC can also authorize variations or alterations. This affects lots 4, 5, 6, and 7. So the proposed lot 4 would be 9.2 acres in this preliminary plat. Lot 5 would be 9.11 acres. Lot 6 would be 9.53 acres. Lot 7 would be 9.62 acres, while all the other lots will be at least 10 acres in size and larger. So here are some key notes on the site access. The proposed access for the northern 8 lots is off of Pronghorn Avenue, Phantom Creek Circle Road off of Pronghorn Avenue, which then connects to County Road 21. Phantom Creek Circle will begin approximately 710 feet from Pronghorn Avenue's entrance. Various proposed solutions have been offered for Pronghorn Drive maintenance. The southern two lots, again, will have separate private driveways that do not connect to the northern lots. All connections to County Road 21 will require paved aprons. So here are some more key notes about access. It comes down to possible solutions for Pronghorn Avenue. One is to make the second access on Phantom Creek Circle a gated emergency access. This would minimize the new residents' usage of Pronghorn. Again, the distance to County Road 21 to the different lots is about 708 feet. There will need to be an agreement on Pronghorn Avenue maintenance. Right now, the developer has offered to take on full responsibility for maintenance of that first section, but no agreement has been made. Another suggestion was to share the cost of paving, or the subdivider maintains this section exclusively, or share the cost between all users of the road. Again, aprons will be paved, and after road and bridge staff went out to the site, they did not believe any major adjustments were needed for Pronghorn. So this went through the same referral process. The main hangups with this that brought it from the May date all the way to November was referrals with the Elbert County engineer. Right now, that's a contracted employee. Kimley Horn does all engineering review for Elbert County. Once it was deemed that the applicant had responded and satisfied all comments from Kimley Horn, we scheduled these public hearings. So during Planning Commission, we have some additional discussion. Condition of approval to study the potential impact of a shooting range located on the property was made. Planning Commission recommended a phase 2 environmental study on this area. After voting 5-0 in favor of approval with one commissioner, Danny Wilcox, abstaining from the vote due to property ownership in the area. Neighbors also expressed several concerns during this meeting. One was a lack of a visual buffer on the northern property line. A neighbor wanted trees planted, possibly as a solution. The possibility of lead contamination from the shooting range was also a major concern from neighbors. Smaller lots than the existing adjacent subdivision was another concern. This 10-acre lots versus the 35 acres in Foxtail Farms was a major concern. Neighbor voiced concerns of smaller non-custom homes and the additional traffic wear and tear on Pronghorn Avenue. Phantom Creek will be accessed from Pronghorn Avenue, and a road maintenance agreement needs to be included in this project. So after Planning Commission, there were a few actions that I made in regards to the findings during that meeting. One was to obtain more information about the previous use of this shooting range on the property. I contacted Elbert County Public Health for guidance on how to proceed as an additional referral. Elbert County Public Health responded with the Hazardous Materials and Waste Management Division from Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment guidance document, and that is titled Corrective Action at Outdoor Shooting Ranges Guidance Document. Elbert County Public Health also told me they were reaching out to a contact working for Colorado Department of Health and Environment. I met with Elbert County Public Works, Road and Bridge staff for more guidance on site access, and Elbert County Legal. Before any final plat approval, a subdivision improvement agreement will be necessary. A road maintenance agreement will also be necessary before the final plat, and a suggestion to include Phantom Creek residents, Foxtail Farms residents, and other Pronghorn Avenue users in a collective HOA was also suggested as a possible solution to this road. So, for plat approval, Article 1C of Elbert County Subdivision Regulation lists review criteria A through E for all subdivision requests. The Board of County Commissioners are to consider these criteria, and the 5 are as follows. Whether the subdivider has provided evidence that provision has been made for a water supply that is sufficient in terms of quantity, dependability, and quality to provide a water supply in accordance with all applicable state laws and local regulations, including these in the Elbert County subdivision regulations. The applicant has received necessary approvals from the Division of Water Resources to support the 10 proposed lots. The Division of Water Resources indicated that the water supply was adequate and would not provide injury based on the standard allocation approach to Elbert County Subdivision Regulations 300-year water requirement. The applicant will also be required to re-permit 2 existing wells. B, whether the subdivider has provided evidence to establish that if a public sewage disposal system is proposed, provision has been made for such system, and if other methods of sewage disposal are proposed, evidence that such systems will comply with state and local laws and regulations which are in effect at the time of submission of the preliminary or final plat. There will be no central sewer system proposed. Each individual lot will need on-site wastewater treatment systems, OWTS, or other recommended systems approved by Elbert County Public Health, and that would be at time of development. C, whether the subdivider has provided evidence to show that all areas of the proposed subdivision which may involve soil or topographical conditions presenting hazards or requiring special precautions have been identified by the subdivider, and that the proposed uses of these areas are compatible with such conditions. The applicant was not required by the appropriate referral agencies to submit a soils report for plan review. However, a potential hazard, again, was identified during the Planning Commission hearing. During the referral process, I did not have enough information concerning this previous use, but after the Planning Commission meeting, staff reached out to Elbert County Public Health for guidance on soil testing and possible steps necessary for remediation. The applicant will need to follow the steps outlined in the corrective action at outdoor shooting ranges guidance document from the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. Elbert County Public Health is also contacting somebody within CDPHE for additional guidance. All concerns relating to the shooting range must be resolved prior to approval and/or recordation of the final plat. Soils testing will be needed for any sanitation approvals as well by Elbert County Public Health, and that would be at time of development. D, whether the application is following the requirements of Elbert County zoning regulations and Elbert County subdivision regulations. The applicant has adequately addressed concerns raised regarding compliance with the zoning regulations and subdivision regulations, respectively. E, whether the application is generally consistent with the intent, policies, and goals of the comprehensive plan. I'll go over a few of the goals. One is water, sewer, waste disposal. New development shall conform to state laws covering domestic water supply and septic. Residential development. Elbert County supports residential development by encouraging a range of lot sizes and residential densities associated with available roads and infrastructure, and by encouraging the designation of open space and the preservation of areas of visual, historic, and natural consequence. Policy residential development. 1, new residential development should cover all costs of on and off-site roads and utilities required to meet the associated demands of that development. Natural resources topic in the general environment. New development should minimize negative impacts to adjacent agricultural lands and designated open space. A goal for forestry and noxious weed management. Significant stands of trees and shrubs identified during the land review process should be preserved and maintained in concert with good forest management practices. Improvements should be located to minimize the removal of vegetation. Special attention should be given to unique, significant forms of vegetation in areas adjacent to bodies of water and in locations where the tree line forms the horizon line on ridges. And finally, goal wildlife 1, the county should continue to include Colorado Parks and Wildlife as a referral agency in appropriate land use application, and that was done. So our findings here are the Planning Department recommends that the Board of County Commissioners approve the Phantom Creek preliminary plat and authorize a minor variation to lot size subject to a few additional conditions. So here are the first 3 conditions. Removing the hearing sign within 7 days will not become effective until fees are paid, and recordation of all appropriate documentation is to occur within 180 days of Board of County Commissioners approval. Potential hazard from the shooting range must be resolved before any final plat approval. This will entail soils testing and any remediation recommended by Elbert County Public Health and/or Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. Number 5, a subdivision improvements agreement will have to be finalized with Elbert County before final plat approval. 6, a road maintenance agreement concerning the use of Pronghorn Avenue must be made before final plat approval. And 7, the existing wells must be re-permitted pursuant to the letter from the Division of Water Resources. So thank you. That concludes my presentation on the preliminary plat, and any questions I'll be welcome to answer.
Thank you, Danny. Commissioner Thayer, any questions for staff?
I'll have several questions, but I'd like to hear from the public comment first and make sure that...
We'll do the applicant first.
Okay. Yes, of course.
So with that, if the applicant would step forward and anything you'd like to add, please, Mr. Brownson.
I apologize for getting out of order.
All right, again, thank you, Commissioners. Mike Brownson, 39622 County Road 21, Elizabeth. And again, Danny, very complete, thank you. So there's a few things that I would like to address, specifically in terms of the use of pronghorn. And fortunately, through this process and through the Planning Commission meeting, I have now been put in touch with basically the road group, they have a name for it, for Foxtail Farms and Arnold Acres subdevelopment, the folks that currently are maintaining pronghorn. And there's so the HOA for those two are basically inactive. I was told that there's no formal road maintenance agreement that was put in place, nor is in place now, and it's basically on a handshake deal. So the concern I have is, how do I get a road maintenance agreement with an entity that is inactive and is working on a handshake deal? So my solution was basically to take that section of pronghorn and essentially just take full, 100% responsibility for improvement and maintenance. Now, there's certain things that now that I'm put in touch with the 4 individuals that are in Foxtail and Arnold Acres, that are in their road committee, I guess we'll call it. I'm very hopeful for constructive cooperation there. So at least we now are communicating. And I think from a maintenance perspective, that's just the road grading, keeping it up, that sort of stuff. I'm not too worried about that because, that rarely is an urgent issue. My main concern that I brought up to the road committee with the neighborhood is snow removal. Look at what's coming in tonight and tomorrow. If we have one of those snows, I asked, how do they currently handle that now? And it just makes sense to work together with the community and the neighborhood, particularly for snow removal. But if we can come to an agreement on the whole shebang, to have a single road maintenance agreement, That, I think, would be great, but I am concerned that if they refuse any cooperation, and if there's a requirement to have a maintenance agreement with the neighbor, I could be completely stuck. So I want to make sure that we're in a position where you know, a couple of individuals can just completely stall everything. So I'm hoping that that by taking over that first section, you know, that effectively resolves and removes a requirement for a mutual road maintenance agreement. But I'm not against a mutual agreement. I would love to be there. So, you know, but agreements take more than just one person. All right. So in that one, and like I said, keep in mind, I was told it's a handshake agreement currently with that neighborhood. Now, if there's been a change, I'm hopeful that, you know, the public comment will enlighten me further. But that's what I've seen so far. So regarding the, you know, the shooting range, it's not one I used. It's not really, I, for the most part, was not involved in that. I had a friend, Sensei Randy, who did firearms training. In fact, he recently, well, about 12 years ago, he moved to West Virginia, and that's currently his full-time job. He now has a company called Shadowhawk, and he trains in concealed carry. He trains the Navy shooters. He trains CIA contractors on basically weapons safety, weapons use, close-in weapons combat techniques. He's a martial artist by trade and has extended this into a new career for him, and it's pretty cool. So I contacted him a couple of weeks ago to find out, well, really, how often was this range used? You know, because, like I said, I didn't go out there for the most part. I think I only went out there twice when he was using the range. And I have an email. I don't remember the exact numbers, but Danny has a copy of that. It was about maybe 10 to 12 times. And the average student count was 6 to 8. And this included maybe 2 sessions with I think he said Elizabeth PD, about 5 or 6 sessions of concealed carry, a couple of ninja camps, which, anyway, a bunch of folks getting together. And he said the typical firearm usage was about 25 to 50 rounds per student per time. So I didn't bother to do the math. But we're not talking about like the range out east, which I can never remember the name, that has been a shooting range and has got loads and loads of lead in the ground. This was pretty minimal usage. And when you look at, you know, okay, this is a rural county. In fact, in one of the ditches, I have a chunk of a car sticking out. You know, it's not uncommon for the old ranchers to have done a lot of stuff over the hundreds of years. And this particular property actually was part of the Miller property. Bob Miller, there on 166, right at where Box Elder Creek crosses, his grandfather actually homesteaded Elbert County, so back in the 1800s. And I bought the property, so basically I'm second owner, third owner if you count the state, because it's a Section 16 of that property. So who knows what happened there before? And that the location we're talking about actually was the old county gravel pit back before the new one was open. So this one is probably goes back maybe about 40 years. It was not great quality gravel. I can tell you that. So anyway, that's I guess the only additions I have. And with that, I look forward to seeing what the neighbors might have to say and being able to respond. Thank you. Any questions for me at this time?
Not yet. I'm going to have some, but I want to hear what the public has to say also.
All right. I agree with that. We will open public comment. Do we have anybody that wishes to make public comment, sir? If there's a list, that would be great to go in that order first.
Ask a clarifying question. So after I introduce myself, does it start the 3-minute timer?
Yes.
set, and I'll be going
Yep.
tomorrow.
If you wouldn't mind, do us a favor and give that list to our clerk so she can have a record of that.
Good morning, afternoon, everybody. My name is Keith Long, live at 5511 Pronghorn Avenue. Now, is that going to count down like it did the other night?
Will you speak into the microphone for me?
Can you hear me now? Okay, sorry. If I walk around, just throw something at me. We're a group from the property owners that are going to be affected by this: Pronghorn, Lone Elk Circle, and Foxtrot. First and foremost, I want to say we're not against development. We want to be good neighbors, and this starts with transparency, which we haven't seen at any point working with the applicant. The applicant has been less than truthful with the property owners and the county. We've seen a pattern of omission or misinformation throughout this process. On October 5th, 2022, we had the community meeting. I believe the name of the land planner was Laura. She put in there, states explicitly, Mike is here, the applicant, excuse me, is here to work out a road agreement. No engagement from the applicant has happened. And another letter, and if you need to see this, it should be all in your docket, but he was given everybody's address and email who was there. And he says he's been unable to contact us. I'm sorry. That's just not correct. He puts in a statement from a March 26, 2023, an engagement letter, Phantom Creek Ranch rezone, that again, the developer has been working with landowners that is currently maintain Pronghorn Trail, I don't know what trail is, to incorporate Phantom Creek. Again, this is not true. And as of today, we've seen nothing. This was supposed to occur starting back October 5th, 2022. We had to bring to the attention the shooting range to the Planning Commission, and I think some people's eyes were open. We bought the property, my wife and I, in 1998. Elbert County Sheriff and posse was there almost every weekend shooting. Every weekend, because I went down because they were shooting right at our house with two little boys. This is called a willful omission. It's not in anything. What else has not been fully disclosed? Contamination's contamination. What about the downstream effects? The applicant or his dad have been adamant since 1999, when I met him, no intention of contributing to the road. Apart from 2012, I think it was a check for about $250. On the Planning Commission website, I'd like to point out, if you look at three-quarter resubmittal and referral, CD 111723, our neighbor, Mr. Hines, to the immediate west, on 5113, it says, owner to remove existing evergreen tree as part of the construction on his private property. If you look, we're going to have a presentation. Proposed lots 3, 4, 9, and 10 are all within flood zones. We have the documentation. This has occurred a few times over the last 15 to 20 years. One of our speakers are going to elaborate it.
Commissioners, that's 3 minutes.
There's no timer.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been nice. Okay. Thank you very much for coming out the other day. Somebody from the county has, and Jay, we appreciate you coming out.
Thank you. Mr. Thayer made a trip out there yesterday as well.
I'm sorry? Oh, thank you, sir. I didn't see you.
William?
Good afternoon. My name is William Hammond. My wife and I live at 39410 Lone Elk Circle, which is at the very end of Pronghorn. I'm going to just limit my discussion to Pronghorn, to the shared road. Pronghorn is a private road with non-exclusive access, and it's informally maintained by members of the neighborhood. The current residents do it. There is no formal or written agreement between any of the residents to do this. It's all been done by volunteers. Volunteers grade, plow, mow, maintain, and repair the road as needed. When it's been needed, we have solicited for funds, for example, for the additional road base. Some people contribute, most people contribute what they can. The history of the road, for the past few years, Pronghorn has been very contentious. Due to the fact that the road degradation was caused by overuse, by a commercial activity, thankfully, we have resolved that issue and improved the road back to a condition where it is suitable for everybody's use. Our concerns are the proposed new development is going to essentially double the number of people that use that road to access their properties for whatever distance it is used. Discussion has been entered into about we need to enter a formal road agreement. Who incurs that expense? We don't have a road agreement now. Who incurs the expense? The current method of community involvement has been acceptable to all the present residents, and a formal agreement would incur, we believe, legal obligations. Who pays for that? There is no central point of authority over the road, as the applicant has brought up. Part of the road is used by members of a subdivision, Foxtail Farms. Part of the road is used by members or by residents that are not part of a subdivision, myself included. We're at the end of the road. We're not in a subdivision. So there is no inactive HOA for us. In order to enter into agreement, a lot of entities has to come. It's a mix. Also, one of the proposed solutions is to have the applicant maintain the entire responsibility for maintaining the first 710 feet of the road. I'm opposed to that. Right now, we all have a portion in the road, and we all have a say in how it's maintained. If one person has the responsibility for that road, what are our recourses if we, the rest of the people, do not like the way that it's being maintained? One of the things the Planning Commission said is we should come up with suggestions, solutions. How can we fix this? My biggest suggestion is make the access off of County Road 21, not off of Pronghorn. Now, I realize probably the reason you don't want to do that is because if you come off the county road, you're going to have to pave the subdivision. That's a big expense. Don't want to pave the subdivision? Drop the lots to less than 7. Use less than 7 lots. Really, make it 35-acre lots. You won't even have to rezone in that place. But the rezoning's been approved, so make it less than 10 lots that you have, down to 7. You don't have to pave then.
Commissioners, that's 3 minutes.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Emily?
Jerry?
Can I give you guys a couple pictures
Yes, please.
to look at? I'm going to give you some too, so you have.
Thank you.
them.
Appreciate that.
You bet.
Thank you.
Pardon me? Yeah, well, yes. Jerry McTaggart, 39600 Foxtrot Circle, Elizabeth, Colorado. I'm here to discuss the flood hazard issues regarding Phantom Creek development. As a resident and neighbor, I have witnessed 3 major flood events in the past 25 years that have affected our community, and the images that I have given you reference, and I'll reference later how that affects lots 3, 4, and 10 with the runoff basins during the flood events. I took the flood map from floodsmart.gov, which uses NFIP and FEMA to calculate the data, and I overlaid the proposed plat map from Phantom Creek Development to show the possible impact of a major flood event. Looking at image A, the flood map, you can see that lots 3, 4, and 10 are quite impacted by the flooding. These lots are the basin that all the rainwater runs in from all 3 hills that are surrounding it. The water then backs up because 21 acts like a dam, and the water from there goes over 21 and tries to get to the natural creek bed that's there. The water ends up spilling over 21 and sorry. The two large culverts there are not adequate to move the water downstream, and so the water backs up, and you'll see in the pictures there that the water is backed up in lots 2 and 3, or 3 and 4, and that water is 5 to 6 feet deep. The photos from our most recent flood were taken hours after the initial downpour. If you look at the images in B, C, and D, it'll show the amounts of water backing up in lots 2 and 4, or 3 and 4. The water depth, like I said, is somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 6 feet. This is only hours after the actual flood that happened. We know how devastating that was to everything. The damage, image D and E show the retention pond that forms in lot 10. Mr. Bronson has incorporated runoff ditches to let the water escape down to lots 3 and 4 in an effort to move it downstream. Now, I hope that once you look at this and you see where the actual floodwaters, the pictures will show you, there's flooding there. And I hope that you look at that and take a look at his proposed lots 3, 4, and 10 and consider how anybody's going to build a house there. I don't want to go down to my neighbor who builds a house there and say, I tried, to do this, but they went ahead and passed it anyway, and I don't want to worry about whether or not their family is going to be in harm's way because they're going to have 6 feet of water coming down that hill at them.
Commissioners, that's 3 minutes.
I'm done.
Very good, thank you.
Amy?
Can you hear me? My name is Amy Ford. I live at 39702 Foxtrot Circle, just a little bit away from Phantom Creek Development. I've come here to talk about the ECSR, Elbert County Subdivision Regulations. One of the things that they make clear is the intent of the regulations in Article 1, Section A, first paragraph. These regulations are designed and enacted for the purposes of promoting the health, safety, convenience, and welfare of the present and future inhabitants of Elbert County. It also goes on to say minimizing adverse environmental impacts by the development. Continues with, in order to protect the best interests of the public. There is a goal there in that section as well for the adjoining landowners. Should be protected against poor practices which would impair or diminish the values of their property. So I'm going to start with that. That's the guidance from the Elbert County subdivision regulations. Sections on flooding. Article 1, Section C was already read by Danny, so I'm going to go ahead and go to Article 11, Section A, Item 2. Unstable land and land having inadequate drainage, not part of the county dedicated land, shall be noted, and unless acceptable provisions are made for the elimination and control of any problems which may endanger health, life, or property, should be discouraged from being built on. Item 4 in that same section, land subjected to flooding or a natural drainage channel shall not be platted for occupancy until adequate provisions to eliminate or control hazards are made and approved. And you'll note, based upon Jerry, lots 3 and 4 fall in that section. There is also a 10-acre minimum. It's highlighted in the FAQ. That one-page FAQ makes it easy to find because it does reference Article 11, Section K, Item 5. For subdivisions with lots less than 10 acres, the minimum open space should be 40% of the gross land, roughly 50 acres, according to what's currently being subdivided. Item 8 in that section only allows for individual well and on-site, the OWTS, on 10 acres minimum. Noted in the FAQ was basically that highlight of the minimum. It's highlighted. So anybody who has missed that, I don't know how you missed it. So 4 of the 10 properties do not meet that 10 minimum acreage. Now, I know there is some talk about variations here, so let's talk a little bit about some of the information on variations. Article 1, Section H1 variations. Allowed when an unnecessary hardship would be placed on the applicant. Such variations or modifications should not be granted if it would be detrimental to the public good or impair the intent and purposes of these regulations. So, the minimum is 10 acres. How? So he's got it going to 10 lots, 10 or less than 10 acres. He could have easily gone 9 lots and brought that up to a minimum. So I want to understand where these variations are causing unnecessary hardship to the application.
Commissioners, that's 3 minutes.
I'm done? Okay. So I did bring them, so I'm not cherry picking.
Thank you.
Arthur?
My name is Art Rydell. I live with my wife, Sandy, at 39705 Foxtrot Circle. When we bought our property 4 years ago, we actually did our due diligence on the neighborhood. And one of the big attractions for us was that the neighborhood did operate on a very cooperative handshake basis. There's an HOA recorded, but it's not formally active. We meet when we need to as a community. There have been some serious issues that we have had, all of which have been resolved by consensus among the community members. So that's come up tangentially, and I just want to indicate for us that's a strong positive. Okay, in the limited time that I have, technically, legally, we've had opinions. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a land use planner, about compatibility, but from a common sense perspective, if you look at the larger map, you don't have to flash it up, I think everybody remembers it. There's going way up north to 166, way west at least to Highway 13, and then for ways east of us is all ag land, 35 acres and up. So from a common sense perspective, you can argue that because there's that little development, Hidden Pines, right below us, that it's compatible. But the fact of the matter is that if this property is subdivided the way it is, it will begin the inevitable encroachment decline of that extremely large block of ag land. By the way, every single one of us either is currently or has and plans to in the future use their land for agricultural purposes. We have 4 horses. One of our neighbors has how many llamas? And I could keep going, 28 llamas. I mean, I could keep going. Okay, so in the limited time I have, to call a spade, at the end it's about money. It's not a terrible hardship, it's about money. How much money will be made off this land? And if we were to, so there are a number of things that are, there where money's being saved by Mr. Mraz. I respect that. I'm a capitalist. I respect that. By not coming in off Road 21, instead burdening Pronghorn, money's being saved. Having even the 9-point-something acre lots able to have separate water and sewer rather than a community system, money's being saved. By going to 10 lots, more money's being made. The answer is to have fewer lots, as Mr. Hammond suggested, maybe 7. As Mr. Hammond suggested for me, maybe 7 lots, I don't know. At which point, a lot of these issues would be completely resolved. It would be possible to provide a buffer zone to the north from our properties. And so everybody, we've been asked for solutions. My solution is just reduce the density a little bit. Obviously, not my decision to make. Anyway, thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you.
And Bart?
My name is Bart McTaggart, 39600 Foxtrot Circle. I'm here to ask that the preliminary plat approval for Phantom Creek be delayed or possibly denied in its current format. It's my opinion that certain aspects should be investigated in more detail. It's also my opinion that full good faith disclosures have not been forthcoming by the applicant or may possibly contain misrepresentations. As such, I do not believe that the Planning Division's allowable variations, considerations to county regulatory requirements is warranted. There are major issues with proposed lots, including size, layout, roadway, flooding, and dangerous environmental hazards that could present serious liabilities and place future county residents in harm's way. Look, flooding and environmental concerns are very real and very serious. The presented floodsmart.gov map overlaid with plat layouts and actual pictures of flood areas should prove that anyone building in those plots will be in danger of flooding events. 3 major flood events in 25 years is significant. I believe the applicant might do well to give more consideration to the people they endeavor to sell those lots to, knowing as they do that multiple lots could end up underwater and in flood events. However, most alarming and concerning, in my opinion, is the failure by the applicant to, in good faith, disclose or even mention the presence of a shooting range where bullets were fired into the dirt hillsides. Lead contamination can be extremely dangerous. Imagine a child out playing in the dirt in their nice new yard being exposed to that kind of danger. To build a home, they are gonna have to disturb the soils. That can potentially bring to the surface very hazardous contaminants from that shooting range. The owner has no actual records of usage, so any attempt to dismiss or diminish the possible danger present is problematic. The bottom line, they pumped lead in that hillside, period. Okay, failure to disclose that raises serious questions. Now, in closing, the serious nature of multiple issues presented should provide due consideration to warrant a delay or denial of the initial plat approval. Agreements still need to be developed. Multiple issues demand more diligent investigation. Let us not rush into something that is going to expose us all to unnecessary hazards. And just as in closing on the road, you can't say I'm going to take over the entranceway and leave all of us up road to your whims as how is that going to be split up. You can't do it. Just like if we plow, and I'm going to be out plowing about 4 in the morning, okay? If that doesn't get plowed, we don't get out. So that's not a good solution. And there's more to the property. Property line should be where it stops. I appreciate your time. Thank you for the extra little few seconds. And thank you for your
comment. That's all we had that signed up. Is anybody else in the room interested in making public comment? Okay, with that, I'll close public comment, and I'd ask the applicant if he would like to respond to any of the questions that have been raised during public comment.
Yeah. Well, obviously, we found that the neighborhood is to the north, and Arnold Acres has really come together, and I think made some pretty good comments. Now, obviously, I have some serious concerns about any impingement on my integrity. I don't get where some of that's coming from. I already mentioned on the shooting range, I was told it was used about 12 times. I can hear shooting going on over there. If the posse were using that every week, I'd know it. So obviously we have a different perception here. I don't know where that comes from. But anyway, so what else? So there was a point made about my engagement with the pronghorn and maintenance earlier on. So back in 2012, I believe it was, I got a call, asking if we would contribute to some money to road maintenance. Initially, I was resisting. I will admit that, because at the time, we had no use for that road. We do have a gate on the north end, but that was primarily when we needed to bring a semi in for hay. To my best of my recollection, that was used twice during that time. Now, since then we had the gravel pit used by my sensei, so that used the north gate. And then since leasing the cattle, the rancher that puts his cattle on there uses that gate. And, but like Keith's comment, I will also admit, I didn't proactively go out to, to try and work something out. But I also figured during this process, because at the time, I didn't think they had a road committee, and it was all kind of handshake. So during this process, I figured, well, things are going to come out of the woodworks, and I would learn a lot, and I have. So I'm glad to see that there is a road committee, that there is at least 4 individuals that can have some conversations with and see where that goes. So right now, obviously, that's probably, one of the more challenging issues that we're facing. The flooding. So, yeah, we've lived there, 26 years? And last summer was not the worst of it. Now I will say we had more floods last summer than at any other time in the history there. But there was one time about, maybe about 20 years ago, we had enough rain coming down the dry washes. It actually went up and over 21. Now, I can say at that time, I looked at those areas. I looked at lots 3 and 4. So, Danny, would you mind bringing up the preliminary plat? And I'll point something out. So I already recognize that there is some need to put in some building envelopes. There's actually a few. Lot 10 has the gravel pit here. So we have a space here that's available, a couple of acres. One of the reasons that I opted not to take a second drive off of 21 is the culverts right there. See if I can stabilize. The culvert's under 21 right there. So there's not hardly any space between to bring a separate drive in. So it was not just a money thing. You can't have 2 driveways or 2 roads, and correct me if I'm wrong with Public Works, like within 50 feet of each other. And that's what we're talking about.
This is just the applicant's time. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyhow, I believe they would be too close. And I don't know what the rule is with Public Works to have 2 adjacent roads, but, that would be the determining factor, right? Okay, so that's that. So yeah, we're talking about flooding. So this section here, about the west 300, 400, 500 feet, give or take, does flood, as you see in those photos. But the water does not go up onto the bench. Lot 4 has never had standing water. And that was when water was flowing over the top of 21. So maybe, I don't know what flood map they're using, but we've had water go over 21 and not had water on lot 4. And yes, the gravel pit holds water. It's actually, we kind of like that because it attracts wildlife. We got the herons come in, the ducks come in. I'm very wildlife friendly. Obviously, we get a good rain, and my house is here. I can hear the toads. I think it's awesome. So that would be a no-build zone. During the community meeting, there was some concern brought up about, buffers. And I think Art did a good job of mentioning that again. So I've already offered and talked to the survey about creating basically, what is that called? Basically building envelopes. There you go. For example, like lot 9, my plan for building envelopes on all of these is to basically keep everything on the front half of the property. So there's only 2 lots where we have a really flood hazard that would define building lots. Plus the gravel pit has slopes over 20 degrees, which excludes that anyways. Comment about the soil down in the gravel pit being disturbed. That's in the bottom of the gravel pit. That's a no-build zone. There'd be no reason to disturb that soil. So the house would be up here, you know, in this area. That would be the building envelope. So, as I mentioned earlier in my introduction, this is something I have been thinking through for 4 years. I'm a thorough person. Believe in being prepared, believe in being honest, so I'm not quite sure where some of the other thoughts come from. But, you know, like I said, I didn't talk about the gun range because it was only used about 12 times. I didn't think that was going to be a big deal. Now, I'm not a professional either, so I'll admit that, of course. My profession actually is more in wireless technology, but I'm a quick learner. Let's see, what else? Oh, so that's right. I started mentioning the road. So about 2012, I was reached out. I was resistant, but I did agree to pay the $249 or $247 that was asked. At the time, I said, because I'm not using this road, and I've also had to deal with the runoff from their culverts on that road that actually I had to maintain myself on my property. Right about in here, there's a culvert that goes under, and that culvert got to about 90% full on the outlet. And I noticed that one time I was checking fences, so yeah, I took my skid steer out there and I cleared that, and I've cleared it a few more times. If I hadn't maintained the outflow of that culvert, they would have had a lot more damage to Pronghorn. So I am sensitive to that. I did that because it's the right thing to do. So anyway, I guess with that, we'll see if there's any questions from the commissioners.
Commissioner Thayer, questions for the applicant?
Sure.
One of the things is taking this floodplain map and just seeing that it may be close. And floodplain versus drainage, I understand that there's some multiple interpretations of what that means. But when you got a picture like this, it does lead you in one place. And when you talk about your building envelopes, one of the things that concerns me is you wouldn't be able to meet setbacks because you're trying to get close to an existing road or a road to be built. The county has in their development code certain setbacks, and to get a consensus of having a wee bit less, and notice I didn't say a lot less, somewhat less, then you have to come and get a specific variance for each and every circumstance that you do that. So one of the things that, for me anyway, I would like to see some kind of a presentation that outlines what risk we're instituting into whoever should buy one of these lots. Now, the other thing that really has me puzzled is lots, I didn't say that right, roads. If you go back to the history of the county, and I've been involved in that somewhat, is typically the road boundaries go to the middle of the road. So where I'm going with this is, if you don't have a road agreement, you're trespassing on somebody's property without their permission. So you have to either buy a right-of-way or get an agreement or something that gives you functional legal access. And I'm trying to talk like a lawyer, and I'm not a lawyer, I'm an engineer, so you got troubles. But the underlying ownership of the land, and those people are actually paying the taxes on that land. So there has to be some kind of an understanding, agreement, a rational plan in place. And we can talk about maintenance, we can talk about who owns it and whether you track, all of that kind of stuff. but it has to be resolved. And then, of course, the floodplain setbacks is something that is very important to me because looking at your map here, you could have to come to us for 9 separate variances. And I'm being a little bit extravagant in my numbers there, but the whole point is you can see that that's certainly there. But that private road right-of-way to me is the biggest one. The gun range, we just need to have an environmental study. And when I drove by it yesterday, I saw those tires down there. So there's something, how do I want to say it? There's some history relics there that have to be evaluated. The building envelopes, the drainage, we need to have a better understanding of how that works. The gun range, the private road ownership right away, and we can go into eloquent ways of describing it, but somebody owns that land underneath. And you can't, in my mind anyway, arbitrarily say, I've got access to it.
That's great.
And again, I'm practicing law without a license here, so the drainage flood, description of flooding. And when I'm again looking at this thing, we're talking about the property setbacks, the flood zones, drainage, whatever. I see multiple variances going to be needed as part of the ongoing development of this lane. So what I'm going to recommend, and I'll let Dallas speak to this, but I'm going to recommend that we continue this hearing until these items are resolved.
I have no more questions for the applicant, but I do have some more for staff. I'd like some clarification on those. So may call you back up, but currently I want to have some.
Well, it's fresh in my mind. Can I address Commissioner Thayer's? Sure. Okay, thank you. So as far as the access, it shows on the survey here a non-exclusive easement that's recorded in everyone that has that's along that section of Pronghorn. It's on my deed, it's on Mr. Hines' deed, it's on Mr. Long's deed. So I believe that takes care of the legal access because it is a non-exclusive easement.
I need to see the legal opinion.
Okay. Yeah, again, I'm not a lawyer either, but I always thought a non-exclusive easement means it's a non-exclusive easement for public use. But that's
and then the other
a
one
legal
is,
thing.
too, for a subdivision that has more than 7 lots, you have to have 2 accesses. And having that emergency one with a gate on it, I'm not sure that that's an access.
That obviously is not my thing either.
That was one of the questions I was going to have for staff. So,
yeah. Okay, I think that's all I had. Thank you.
okay. So let's just jump right into that then with the staff. I know there's been talk of that emergency access at the eastern end of the loop. Is that considered access, and what has been the county's precedent or common practice in regards to a second? And I'm not sure who the best person to ask that question is, if it's our fine folks from Road and Bridge or if it's our CDS or...
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Mark Denrader, Director of Community and Economic Development for Elbert County Government. I could expand on this a bit just from my perspective. It's my understanding that this goes into the road and bridge standards in terms of the access, the number of access, and when my interpretation is when it comes down to the secondary access, and if that is an emergency access only, it could be up for interpretation of the regulations as to does that constitute that second access. In my view, I'm not sure that it's 100% clear in the road and bridge standards. If others would like to expand on it, please do. But that's the perspective from community and economic development on that particular piece. We, based on the regs, standards, I would say yes, it would fulfill the requirement. Others could counter me on that.
I'll weigh in. I think Public Works could certainly talk about what the regulation says. But I think there's legitimate concern over whether it actually meets the requirements. This is one of those things where I think it would be nice to have a subdivision improvement agreement already put together. A lot of these questions could be answered with agreements already in place with the applicant. And so I wasn't approached to put one together at this point. But if there is an opportunity to do so, I think that may iron out some of these issues by being able to discuss those things and come up with solutions. I don't believe an emergency-only secondary access meets the requirements. But I don't know all the details either. As I said, I would be asking some additional questions in order to put a subdivision improvement agreement together. One of those would be, certainly there's going to be additional vehicle trips. What's the impact of those vehicle trips? Is there a traffic study? What does the traffic study say? So, I know that Kimley Horn has been involved to some extent, but I'm not quite sure what that all says about that. And in putting a subdivision improvement agreement together, I would be asking all of those questions. And ultimately, it would be the board that would be making the decision. I don't believe an emergency-only access actually meets the requirements.
Okay, thank you. I would like to invite one or both of our guests from Road and Bridge up. Monty Hinkins, our Public Works Director, and Jay Walp, Road and Bridge Foreman. They're familiar with this project. So if you want to weigh in on the secondary access, and I've got a couple more questions for you guys as well.
Monty Hankins, Elbert County Public Works Director. This is Jay Walp. He's one of my Public Works foremen who has transitioned into a lot of development oversight in his career here. Jay, you want to speak to that?
Okay, so the actual regulations that we're talking about from our specifications published to the public, it says, any subdivision of land greater than 7 lots will require 2 points of access egress unless otherwise specified. That's it. Not really clear. My understanding, and this, I believe this was put into these specifications for the 2019 revision with the previous Public Works Director and the previous engineer for the county. My understanding is that this was put in response to wildfires. That there was a number of concerns with communities where if a fire happens, they have only one way to get in and out of a subdivision, whatever. So people don't get trapped. That was my understanding. Doesn't say so in here, but that's my understanding. That's kind of where we went to on this as far as, is it an emergency access? Does it meet the standards? It's not really clear. But it says unless otherwise specified.
It doesn't really identify if a gate or some kind of mechanism of that sort is acceptable.
We actually have another subdivision that we were talking about earlier today that has the exact same situation. We're running into this on a more frequent basis with additional subdivisions, and this is something that needs to be addressed, clarified in our regulations. It's going to happen more, this exact same situation is going to happen more and more often.
And I can expand a little bit on that. I was involved with the drafting. I didn't do the entire thing. The old Public Works Director certainly worked a lot on that, but I did discuss this particular issue with him. I think the plain reading of that particular requirement refers to ingress and egress. If you got a gate there, not everybody can ingress and egress there. So in my opinion, it doesn't meet the requirement. Even if an emergency service provider could somehow open the gate with a special key, I don't think that provides ingress egress for the purpose of for that, ingress egress.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Then the other question I have for you guys, given our storms last summer, I know you guys were out evaluating roadways and everything. Do you remember anything particular about this property, how it was affected by the rain, what kind of problems we did or didn't have with the culverts, road, whatever's through there?
Yeah, I do not. Obviously, we had lots of extensive damage on 13 and roads, within the area of this drainage channel. This drains down almost right to where we had so many issues with 13 towards that direction. We had a lot of staff out. Almost the entire road and bridge department was out for days on end. We had a major event June 12th and a major event June 22nd. In both events, we had staff out all the time. We did observe water top County Road 21 down by 154 in the flat where the fields are. Did not observe any issues in this area. We were obviously only had our eyes on if water was on top of the road, didn't pay attention to how it might impact the future lots or the land that was associated with. But to my recollection and to our observance, it did not top the road then.
Okay. One more question. We heard a comment today that if there was to be another access coming off of 21 separate from Pronghorn, what are the standards for that to be? I know that piece of there from being out there yesterday is pretty wide open and there's good field of vision, but I would imagine there's something that says you can't have them right next to each other.
There are specifications in our standards that deal with, depending on the type of road, whether it's classified as a local or collector, and also minor collector, major collector. This is all determined by average daily traffic count. In our specifications, a minor collector, and I don't know the exact number of vehicles, but a minor collector is 330 feet minimum between accesses to that road. A major collector is 660 feet minimum between access to that road.
I'm pretty sure the traffic counts, the last ones we did on County Road 21 were upwards of 3,500 cars per day. It's one of the busier roads in the county. It's probably somewhere in the top 5. So I would guesstimate that this is considered a major collector. So we're in the 600 and some odd feet range between accesses.
Okay. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you coming. I know you got other things on your mind about what's happening
right now,
tonight.
Yeah.
I have no more questions for you, Commissioner Thayer. Do you have any questions for these guys? But feel free to go take care of our roads. We really, really appreciate it.
Just trying to get ready.
Thank you for your time. Danny, going back to our packets, we had a pretty extensive drainage study in there, but I was kind of lost with it. Can you give us an executive summary or kind of a higher overview with it?
I could definitely do a higher level kind of view of it. So the drainage study addressed, the kind of this area of, concern, and Kimley Horn reviewed that, and they determined the necessary square footage for water retention, stormwater retention in each lot. And the applicant did address all concerns related to the engineering and roads. Obviously, Kimley Horn is our consultant, which makes it a little more difficult to get, full county guidance and review. Obviously, we hope that they do review all specifications, but yes, they approved the engineering and traffic for this development.
Okay. I don't know, for sure before we see a final plat, could we have them give us an executive summary? And maybe, I'm not sure how official they go by this, floodsmart.gov, but perhaps we need to ask them about this too, if this is part of the process that they looked at.
Yeah, I have not heard of the flood smart mapping. I do know this is not in a FEMA floodplain. It's not a FEMA designated floodplain. Now, it might be some kind of historic drainage, but there's no floodplain requirements if it's in, I don't know what the flood smart is.
Okay. So FEMA has not designated anything here as a flood area?
Not as a FEMA designated floodplain, flood hazard zone.
And that was my question to Danny earlier, is just what does FEMA
what do they
refer to? And that's truly what insurance looks at. That's what we should be looking at is what the FEMA floodplain is. And they do update from time to time with clomers and lomers and those sorts of things. But for Danny, that this is not an area that is not in their designated floodplain.
Designated area.
Yeah, and if I may add, Mark Denreader again, if you go to our public information map, which does have a floodplain layer on it, and it's clearly outside of the floodplain.
Thank you. Sure. You've lived there long enough. It'd be interesting to hear what you have to say about the water.
Yeah, like I said, I've been on the property 26 years, and actually, yeah, I saw worse flooding that one time. I said, what, about 20 years ago, and then, you know, the creeks would run on occasion back then, and then it had been 14 years between the last flow and this last summer, where it actually flowed 5 times there at my house, where it's much more upstream. Now, I think if we take, if we look at this image here, I think this is a really good one to utilize because it shows just how high the water gets. And I want to point out a couple of things on that image. So, you folks? So that's the basin that's basically, that's that area I was marking on lot 3 that I know it gets flooded. Now, if you notice, kind of this side of Road 21, there's a long dry stretch. Well, just before we purchased the property, the county had installed new culverts. So there's 2 30-inch culverts under 21, right there. And in order to do the road construction, they actually built a bypass. There's a word I was looking for. So that's where that berm was the bypass that the county built while they did the new culverts on 21. That bypass stands about 3 feet above the sand. It's really flat right there. It's just a sandy bottom. The County Road 21 is about, when I stand next to it, it's right at about eye level. So let's call it 5 feet from the sandy flat bottom to the top of County Road 21. So we see in this image, it's obviously not going over County Road 21. So there's clearly a recognized potential for flooding, but just in that flat spot. So I don't know about where that other map, I would love to see the data points on that because that is an incredible amount of water coverage, which I have to seriously question. You know, having lived there and seen the flood that came down enough water to go over 21, and that water did not flood those lots 3 and 4, other than that one basin, which would obviously be a no-build zone. I mean, that's just common sense, right? And Commissioner Thayer, I didn't really think to talk about the setbacks. And I said, I'm pretty thorough. So if you go out there, you'll actually see where the road is staked. I've got some other stakes. Probably a lot of them are too small to have noticed. Because I wanted to make sure that there was adequate building sites that would not require, what did you call it, exceptions or whatever the rule. So, anyway, so the surveyor would be the ultimate, identifier of that. But based on my understanding of the setbacks and the lots, like that one lot 10, which is the gravel pit here. Oh, actually, could you go back to that, Danny? I think that was a really good one. Do the aerial. The road is going to intersect right around in here and then come around. So there's actually quite a bit of land up there. So I didn't really foresee, setback issues. But again, the final plat is where the building envelopes would be defined for sure. So, that's the ultimate. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you.
I've got just a couple more items I'd like to cover. Bart, could you give us what your definition is of a non-exclusive access on a road?
Yeah, I'd probably want to do a little more research on that, but I think this is not an atypical scenario for a lot of areas within the county. And what I think that would mean, in this particular instance, is from an assessment standpoint, people are certainly going to have, lines of delineation for what they're paying taxes on, whether there's a road on it or not. But with regard to being able to access this road, I think any member of the public would be able to access this road. That would be my definition to you without additional information.
And then, Danny, on regards to the shooting range, Commissioner Thayer's always commented, and I was out too and observed that the emails that we saw that there was a backstop that was built with tires and dirt and everything. The tires you can see, so you can tell that is what happened. How far along are we in the process of doing that study on the soil?
So I would say we're not far enough along on that study. I think that's important to address. You can't have lead contamination where people are digging up dirt. I think that definitely needs to be tested. And if they want to have any type of buildable lot there, that would have to be remediated, in my opinion.
Well, if I read the emails correctly on that, it seems as though it was built so that it would be easily removed. So it doesn't seem like it would be a large lift to
It does
remove that.
seem like it would be easier to remove with having tires in a berm to be able to take that. There's still, you have to deal with the soil correctly. You can't just be disturbing it and then, kind of moving on. You have to deal with that appropriately and dispose of that soil appropriately. So it's possible that it could be done with, not too much effort, but there are studies and efforts that need to be done to, make that area right.
Thank you. With all the information that we have, this is obviously a difficult piece of property to get it to where everybody is happy. I am very concerned with the road use agreement. From our testimony or our comments from our road and bridge folks, having another access off of 21 is not going to be a very viable option. And to get that 600 feet back, then we're going to be getting into that drainage area again. How do we address through that, which I think would be pretty costly. So I think it's in everybody's best interest if we are able to get that agreement, some kind of a firmed up agreement on Pronghorn on how that works. So I think that's first and foremost. I know there were some proposed conditions of approval, and I agree that those all need to be addressed, but I am in agreement with Commissioner Thayer at this point. I don't think I have enough information, given all these different points that have been brought up, to make a informed decision today.
As Commissioner Schroeder said at the start, because there's only two of us, you have to have 2 affirmative votes. And until we get some of these items clarified. I don't want to turn it down, but if you make me, I will have to. So what I would like to suggest to you, and then before I make a recommendation, is that we continue this to April 24th, which is about 6 weeks out, at which time you will bring to us a resolution of the outstanding issues. And going between a preliminary plat and a final plat, there shouldn't be huge discrepancies that need to be satisfied. It should be something, well, yeah, you're going to paint the fence blue. It should be something relatively simple. And I really feel like this application as presented does not have enough planning and factual material in it that gives me comfort. And, you know, the things about drainage and things like that, you know, if you went to a 7 lots, there would be some different requirements, but you're asking for 10. So we got to evaluate it as 10 lots. And we got to evaluate it as a private road. And I understand the different easements and all of those different kind of things. But then how much is this going to increase the amount of traffic on that road from here to there? These things need to be addressed. And I know I'm being a little bit too puzzling in terms of the detail I want, but I have trouble making decisions based on what ifs. So if you would accept a continuance to April 24th, or if you wanted a couple of weeks later, I don't care. But under our regulations, I could leave it kind of loosey-goosey out there for the date, but under our regulations, you should have a specified date. And if we get to that specified date and you're still not there, you can ask for a continue of the continuance.
Will you please come to the podium?
That's fine. Our meetings are the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays, so pick one.
If you can go
I need him to come to the microphone.
The microphone, thank you. The microphone.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. So
Our May events would be May 8th or May 22nd.
I believe May 8th, I can put that on my calendar. But I really would like some, and I know you said it's hard to clarify, but yeah, I need to know what I'm coming with on May 8th. Now, for example, you mentioned, you know, the amount of traffic on on Pronghorn. There's a traffic study, so that's undocumented, obviously.
To answer your question, you'll be working with CDS. And if they find that our requests are not in order of our regulations, they'll come and talk to us, but you'll be working with Danny. And I would rather not have you have the ability to go around him, because he's the one that's going to evaluate all of the information.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would just point you to the conditions of approval that the Planning Commission put forth, and to start working on all those. So we can at least have a report of how far along we are on those different items.
Got it.
Does that make
That's
sense?
that's a good suggestion.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
If you have any further comment, Commissioner?
So are you willing to accept a continuance till, what was the date again? May
8th. Yes, Commissioners, I will.
With that, I will accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we continue the hearing for the Phantom Creek preliminary plat, P-2023-00040, until May the 20.
May 8th.
May 8th.
Can we also specify a time and place?
It would be here at the Elbert County office at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, or whatever the schedule was in the afternoon.
1 p.m. Second. Motion and second. I'll accept. Motion, please say aye if you agree. Aye.
Aye.
With that, we've concluded today on the preliminary plat on Phantom Creek. I'd entertain a motion to close public hearing on this.
Mr. Chairman,
we're just continuing. We don't need to close. So we're just going to continue. We've had that done.
Yep, we've already.
With that, Commissioner Richardson is on a Zoom call fighting for our rights down at town against some bad legislation. And so he said we have nothing else before us. There's nothing else that Commissioner thing. So he said, please go ahead and adjourn without me. Don't make him leave. So with that being said, I accept a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.